Everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar hosted by the Office of Economic Development here in the city of San Jose. I can see that participants are coming online. I'll give everyone 2 minutes just to orientate and get online and settle into the presentation, and I'll begin. Let me introduce myself for those of you who've not seen me before. My name is Vic Farley. I work for the City of San Jose here in the Office of Economic Development, and I tend to specialize in access to capital, loans, banks, grants, and financial programs. What I'm going to talk you through over the course of the next 15 minutes is a short presentation to introduce you to the topic today, which is Round 5, the California Relief Fund Business Grant Program. And then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. For those of you who are familiar with the Zoom process, you're able to put your question into the Q&A. So as I'm typing this through, as I'm working through the slide deck in the PowerPoint, if you have a question, please feel free to write it into the Q&A, and then I will do my best to work my way through each of the questions in turn and try and answer them. If I'm not able to answer the question, I'll invite the person who submitted the question to follow up with me and send me an email, and maybe we can spend some time looking at the particular point that you're making here and see if I can provide you with more detail. I can see that we've got close to 50 participants now on the webinar, so I'm going to begin the presentation. So welcome and thank you for joining us today. I should say with all our webinars, we do provide a recording. There is a slide deck, and we aim to get all of the information back out to you within the next 48 hours. That's our aim. You do not need to take notes or unless it's obviously something of direct assistance to you, or screenshots, but this information will all be made publicly available. Okay, so here's our agenda for today's webinar. I want to get to the obvious point. Where do I apply for the business grant? And I'll say what the business grant program is in a moment. Who's eligible? How to apply? What are the grant amounts? The important documents that you need to submit with an application. How will Lendistry, that's the organization responsible for managing the program, determine your application? And what are the top tips? What advice can I give you now in preparation for making an application? We'll then get into a Q&A, and I've got some links as well. Just to say by way of introduction, the California Relief Fund grant program has been running since the middle of January. And I know a lot of businesses here in the city of San Jose have made applications. It's been a difficult process for many people. The application online has not been smooth or straightforward in terms of being able to complete that application, load documents, and know that you have received an email confirming the application has been accepted by Lendistry. So I'm sure there'll be quite a lot of questions about the technical side of things, about how to do this. And so this presentation and this webinar is really about a heads up, because we have another round coming up that will start this week, March the 25th, just for 1 week. And so the opportunity to think about whether you wish to make an application or you've already made an application in earlier rounds, the next 2 or 3 days gives you a great window here to prepare for what you need to do to take your application forward. To cut to the chase, where do I apply for a California Relief Fund grant? Well, it's here. Here's the website. You can see that you apply here. Helpfully, they're also providing a series of webinars on how to apply, and you can look at those as well, and you can book in. They're free. So if you want to also follow up from the presentation that I give you and give you more information, you can go onto one of the webinars and look at that in the kind of detail that I'm sure you'd be interested in. And finally, they also provide you with application tips, and these are important as well. So if you want to do your preparation in advance of March 25th, you can look at this, and this will give you an insight into the kind of issues that you must cover when you make your application. So this is, if you want to go straight to it now, these are the 3 key links that you need in order to be able to make an application, understand if you want more information, and get the tips. Also, please note that Lendistry now enable you to make an application in languages other than English. And when I was looking at it this morning, just to check on this, certainly the box that was there for Spanish and Chinese. So if that's your preference, please make sure that you are able to click on those boxes. So that's kind of, where do I apply? Okay, let's just go back and ask ourselves, who is eligible to apply? It's a very broad definition of a small business. You can be a sole proprietor, an independent contractor, a C Corp, an S Corp, an LLP, or a partnership. You may also be a non-profit, and this is an interesting addition. There are a number of non-profit organizations here in the city who can also apply. So it's a very broad definition of legal entity. Probably the key and the most important thing, though, in terms of eligibility is your yearly gross revenue. So long as your gross receipts were less than $2.5 million, you're eligible to apply. Also, that your business must have been in operation prior to June 1, 2019. Those are the key requirements. You're an existing business with revenue under $2.5 million, and you do have a recognized structure for your business. 2 other things you need to note in terms of your eligibility. You must be able to provide a 2019 tax return or a Form 990 to evidence who you are as a business. If you're a business owner with multiple entities, a number of 2 or 3 businesses spread in different locations, you cannot apply each time under each business. You're only allowed to apply once on the basis you're applying with the business that generates the highest gross receipts. And so long as that highest gross receipts total remains under $2.5 million, you're eligible to make the application. Okay, how to apply? Round 5 begins this Thursday, March 25th through to Wednesday, March 31st. So it's just 1 week. Eligible applicants will also include businesses that made a previous application in rounds 1, 2, and 3, as well as new applicants who can make a new application in that week's window. Applicants not selected will be automatically moved into round 5. So if you were you were a business owner that made an application earlier in the year and you were waitlisted, that was the word that Lendistry used. So you weren't approved and you weren't rejected, you were waitlisted, then you'll be considered automatically for round 5. But if you're new and you've not made a previous application, you will have to apply. And you'll need to apply on the Lendistry website. The other thing I must stress to you is that this is not a first come, first served program. So none of the round 5 awards will be made in that week. It's not as though you have to get your application in on the first day, March the 25th, believing that the money is going to be allocated immediately. It won't be. Lendistry will wait till the application deadline has been reached, March the 31st, and then review all applications that have been received and that have been duly completed with all of the attached documents. So this is not a first come, first served program. So you don't have to rush in and do everything on the opening day, March 25th. What are the grant amounts? Well, the grant amounts are based exclusively on your gross receipts as a business. So if your gross receipts, you can see on this table in front of you, were between $1,000 and $100,000, and you're successful, you will be awarded $5,000. If your gross receipts were higher than $100,000 and up to $1 million, it's $15,000. And if you're over $1 million and up to $2.5 million, it is $25,000. So those are the three outcomes of a successful application based exclusively or entirely on the gross receipts. And that will be identified in your 2019 tax return. Now, thinking about what you have to complete with an application, there is basic standard information that most business owners will understand straight away, but there are a number of documents you have to have ready. Now, what we've learned from the earlier applications is that business owners, you start the application, you get halfway through, and you realize, I haven't got this piece of paper, so I'll save my application, I'll go and find the document, and then I'll come back to it. And of course, that's sometimes the systems haven't worked well. So really the key point here is to get all your documents ready and have them with you at the point you start the application. Don't begin the application then thinking, I've got to now go and find the paperwork. Get the paperwork ready first, then start the application. And the information you will need, you can see here on the slide, you need a certificate that identifies that you are the business owner or that this is your business. Often that can be a city, a business tax receipt. It can be a legal identifier of what the company is, the legal structure. Secondly, you'll need your most recent tax return that's been filed. And the assumption here is that that is 2019, although you may be more recent than that if you filed your 2020 tax return in the last few weeks. And critically important, you have to take a copy of it in a PDF format. And that is the document style that will be used to upload it into your application form. Thirdly, you'll need a copy of your official filing with the California Secretary of State. That's just your legal identifier, your certificate of organization. So if that is a piece of paper that you have somewhere, but you've never really had to rely upon it or use it for any other purpose, now is a good time to try and find it. And fourth, last but not least, you need some form of government issued photo ID, such as a driver's license or a passport. So those are the four sort of key pieces of information, documentation you should source before you commence your application form. So you have it in front of you and you have electronic copies on your computer that allow you to click and load into the application form as you proceed. Remember, you can only apply once, and this is a number of businesses have made multiple applications, but you can only apply once. If you apply a number of times, it really will delay and potentially reduce your opportunity to be successful. And for those of you business owners that have franchises or different locations, you're going to have to only use the business with the highest revenue, as I was saying, so long as that falls under the $2.5 million. So those are the key documents that you will need. A key question that's come up and that we've tried to respond to is, how did Lendustry decide on an application? Essentially, Lendustry are receiving thousands of applications. And it isn't a person or a team of people that looks at the applications. It's in fact a computer program. It's an algorithm. And the computer program is searching essentially for three things that it looks for in your application. Firstly, the geographic location, to understand whether in fact your business has been impacted by COVID-19. And in truth, almost every business in the state of California has been impacted by various governor, county, or local city jurisdictions that have restricted a business and how it's been able to operate, which then has in turn damaged the gross receipts of that business as a result of shelter in place and stay at home orders. So geographic location is important here. The second one is the industry sectors most impacted by the pandemic, and that includes industries such as restaurants, entertainment, hotels. These are the industries most impacted because they've been kept closed for the longest, and also certain retail, nail, care, many other kind of subsets of industries and sectors here. But essentially what they're trying to do here is identify which businesses have been most impacted. And thirdly, underserved small business groups. Which are the small businesses that are located in the state of California in industries within particular communities for whom they are the most underserved? And it's the combination of these three. It's not one over another. It's not one is more important than another. It's the combination of these three criteria that enables Lendistry to determine an application. Now, we know from earlier rounds in the year, there were so many applications made. There was such a huge demand for this money, which is important, that the governor decided to increase the budget and make more money available, which is why we're having this round 5. But it's the same criteria that was used in earlier rounds that will be used to decide on the forthcoming round 5. So here are my top tips. Read through the FAQ on the Lendistry website and the other material before you apply. Find your last tax return. What we've discovered with an application is it's best done using the Google Chrome web server and adopt the incognito function. If you're unsure or you want a copy of everything, take a screenshot. Ensure when you complete the application that you provide an email address that you regularly use. And it's been an interesting feature that on a number of occasions, a business owner has contacted me to say that they found that they'd received a confirmation of the application email, but it was in their junk folder. So always check that as a matter of course. Provide a bank account that you've used within the last 90 to 120 days. And the reason for that is that Lendistry run a program on the account number that you've given to check that the account is in use, because they don't want a dormant account. What they want is evidence that the business is functioning. And the way to test the functionality of a business is to know whether income and expenditure is being drawn from and added to the company's bank account. Only use, if you can, a PDF copy of the original documents. A screenshot will not load on the system. And last but not least, it can be very stressful applying because there are so many people and the system becomes very slow, the platform that Lendistry use. So we've generally said to people, apply in the evening when we believe the site traffic is lower. These are our top tips, and I hope you find that useful. Many of you want to take advice. You look at the regulations, you look at the application process, you may have questions. And I'm very pleased to say that the Silicon Valley Small Business Development Center, SBDC, based here in the city of San Jose, would welcome you to contact them and be able to book an appointment and have a conversation with one of their business counselors. Now, the way it works at the Small Business Development Center, you have to complete a little 2-page form. It's a very straightforward form that just says who you are, what your business is, where your business is located, the address, sign, and that in a sense is their client form. And once you sign that, then they will accept you as a client and provide you with free technical support on how to make your application. So they're very important. And there are a number of other organizations that also provide free technical assistance, and you can find them all on the website businessownerspace.com. If you look at Business Owners Space, you'll see all the organizations that provide free business advice here in the city of San Jose, and we welcome you to take advantage of these organizations and how they serve the business community here in the city. There will be finally a round 6. So what's taking place now is there's an assumption by Lendistry that the number of applications that are already in the wait list, plus the new applications that they will receive in round 5, will exceed the amount of money that is available to allocate. So therefore, they're going to have another round. And so long as you've applied, if you're a new applicant in round 5, you will automatically be considered in round 6. So you get 2 bites of the cherry here. And if you were one of those early applicants, you'll continue to be considered, provided all your information is accurate, up to date, and the application form itself is complete. So there's a round 5 that begins on March 25th for 1 week. And then we're anticipating in just 2 to 3 weeks' time, we don't yet have the official dates through, we may get that this week, that there will be a round 6 because the governor has made budget available for both round 5 and round 6. Let me pause here. I hope you found that a useful introduction. If you're new to the California Relief Grant, it is free money. It is a grant. You don't have to repay it under any circumstances, so far as we're aware. And therefore, it's an important opportunity for you as a business owner to make the application as soon as the window opens on March 25th. Let's look at the questions and all questions that we've got. Okay. Hitesh has asked me, the current window open is for round 4, but when you go through the participants, only the round 5 info pops up. Yes, that's right. So round 4 at the moment, I didn't want to get into the technicality of the earlier rounds. Round 4 is just for non-profit arts and culture organizations. So you only need to think about round 5. And that will be open to you on March 25th. Christine asks, I am on the wait list, but my initial application was incomplete. What is the best way to add information to my application? Can I modify the existing one or should I start a new one? I would contact Lendistry now before round 5 starts on March 25th. And although I'm told that the service you may wait a while, I would make that call now. And I would try and speak to someone in their customer service. If you're unsuccessful with that, reach out to the Small Business Development Center. And I think the last thing you do is start a new application. See if you can modify the existing one first by direct communication with Lendistry. Okay, we have a question from an anonymous registrant. Non-profit religious organizations exempt from filing any tax returns, what would they attach as related documents? I don't know the answer to that one, to be honest with you. We would have to look at that in some detail. I've not worked with a non-profit religious organization before on this grant program. So perhaps you'd like to contact me. I will leave you my email address at the end of this slide deck, and perhaps we can look at that in more detail. It will relate to the status of the legal entity, the particular number here, which I assume that you are eligible to apply for. I think you may have to contact Lendistry to check on that if you haven't got any tax returns. We'll have to look at that in more detail. I apologize, it's not an issue I've had to pick up in more detail with respect to non-profit religious organizations. I submitted, Francine has asked a question. I submitted an application in January. However, I did not submit my bank information. How should I handle this? As it stated, it was not necessary until you'd been selected. Well, I think literally you only need to supply the bank information now at the point where you've been successful. So I don't think you need to take any action. If you're still unsure about that, then reach out to Lendistry now. Contact them via their customer service. But I think you're okay at this point. Questions coming through. How much revenue loss 2020 versus 2019 is likely to get approved? That's not an issue here with the CA relief grant. They're not looking at revenue loss. They're only looking at the gross receipts figure. So long as your gross receipts of your business were under $2.5 million, you're eligible to apply. Revenue loss is something that is being considered in other programs like PPP, for instance, and other forms of federal stimulus programs like EIDL, etc. Kevin is asked, is there any sort of forgiveness paperwork that needs to be filled out at a later date similar to the PPP process? No, because it's a grant, there is no forgiveness paperwork. You will just have to complete the paperwork to receive the grant, and then I'm sure Lendistry will send you a form for evidence that you spent the grant, but you do not have to complete any forgiveness paperwork in the way that is comparable to PPP. Myra asks, I applied for the CA relief grant for business. Yes, we were not selected. Was that one of the earlier rounds, or should I reapply for this? Okay. If you weren't selected, then you should reapply. And I would check in with SBDC as well and do that before March 25th. This is your sort of heads up period between now and Thursday to sort of check through that and find out what you should do. I totally understand your sort of sense here. I would consider you have nothing to lose by reapplying fundamentally, and therefore check it out with SBDC. Preeti has asked, I have filed 2020 taxes. Should I add those to 2019 returns? Yes, I think you should. And I think you'll probably find that on the FAQ on the website, there is clarity on that point. So check it out on the Lendistry website. Leslie asks, I'm a sole proprietor and I've been in business for over 10 years. I do not have and have not ever needed a signed certification. I have a business tax license from San Jose and I have tax returns. Again, I think you're gonna have to check on the fine print here, Leslie. I think that the fact that you won't be alone, many sole proprietors are in a similar position to you here, that provided you've got your business tax license, that should be sufficient, but please check the fine print, Leslie. Also email me after the webinar and I'll see if I can go through that with you. If you want a more detailed answer, either go directly to Lendistry, as I've been suggesting to other questioners that have come in wanting clarification on points now before Thursday, or reach out to SBDC, Leslie. Myra asked about, rent relief. The grant can be used to pay rent, yes. It's not rent relief per se. It's a grant that can be used to support your business in any number of ways, whether that's to meet payroll, pay utilities. You can use that grant in multiple ways. It's not restricted just to rent relief. If there's anything, Myra, about that question that you're not happy about or you want to add to, please follow up and put another question in here. Let me just check through. No, I think that's clear. I think we've answered, we've checked and looked at all the questions here. So let me just conclude. If you want to contact me, there may be some more detail here that you want to go through. You can have a private conversation with me. This is who I am. Here's my email address. You're very welcome to send me an email and I'll try and look at the issue with you. If you want more detailed advice, please contact the Small Business Development Centre. They have business counsellors that you can book an appointment time with. And as I say, just to conclude, I think that the most important thing here is to use today up to Thursday to get prepared. Get the documents that you need, find them, copy them into a PDF format. If you've already got them in that format, great. If you want to understand more about the detail, go onto the Lendistry website. They will be hosting webinars. So you can get into the detail of the application form process there. If you're an outstanding applicant, you've made an application earlier in the year, follow up to Lendistry before Thursday. And if you're unsure about the status of your application, although I think it's wise to stick with the original application and add in any missing information, you can always, as a safety point, make a second application, but I think it may reduce your chances overall. So weigh that up and perhaps take advice from Lendistry or SBDC on that point. Let me just check to see if we have some more questions.
Hey, Vix, sorry, I think we just got a couple more questions in the pipeline.
Okay, great, of course, happy to. Does the application process ask if we are women-owned? I'm not sure. I'd have to look at that. There may well be some questions around who is the owner, but it makes no difference to the outcome of the application. I think they are looking for information to get a better understanding of who's applying and where in California are the applications being made. So I think it's more their sort of data to understand applications. I do not believe that makes any difference whatsoever in relation to deciding whether your application is treated more favorably than any other application. Christine has asked, I'm a landlord who is not eligible for other landlord-specific programs. What are my odds? Difficult to answer that one. What are my odds? To be honest, Christine, I think that the fact that there have been additional rounds of money made available to meet this demand obviously demonstrates that the governor can see the need. I think I can't really put a statistic on it. I don't know if you've got a 1 in 2 chance or a 1 in 10 chance. I really don't know. I feel that it's a kind of free decision for you to make that application. You have nothing to lose. I think that at the end of the day, Christine, that there is a desire to support you by the governor. It's a question of just how far will the budget go that he's got available to meet the volume of applications that have come in. I'm sorry, if I knew the odds, I would tell you. Is there a time limit on making the payroll payment from the grant? No, I don't believe there is a time limit. Again, you can check the fine print here, but I believe that they're assuming that if you're successful, you will normally receive the grant, I believe, within 40 days and I'm sure it's a lot shorter period than the 40 days. And you're then able to spend that grant monies to meet the needs of your business. That's a question from Annie. Thank you, Annie. Chris is, as long as they're not zero. Yes, that's right. Yes. Okay. Let's see if we've got any more questions. So just to wrap up then, use the next 3 days to prepare. If you've already made an application, reach out to Lendistry now and check an update. If you want more information or advice, either contact me or go directly to the Small Business Development Center. And if you have issues of concern in relation to applying for this grant, as opposed to other forms of programs like PPP, you're welcome again to talk to me, contact me, and I'll happily resolve that. But essentially, you can make applications for PPP and this grant program. They will not contradict, they will not prevent you from getting one or the other. You're eligible to apply for both quite openly. I did receive another question, which was how much money do we estimate has come into the city? And we think somewhere around 600 to 700 business grants have been received by business owners in the city of San Jose since these funding rounds began in mid-January. So it is worth doing, and there are opportunities here, both for round 5 and the round 6. You get these 2 bites of the cherry to make your application. Well, this has been just a special lunchtime webinar to ensure that here in the city of San Jose, we get as many business owners applying for this free money, this business grant now, with round 5 opening on Thursday. I hope you found it useful and helpful. And if you want any more information, please follow up. And I wish everyone the very best of luck in making their application. And the city wants to ensure that we've supported you in this process as best we can. Thank you very much for joining us today, and I wish you every success with your application. Thank you. Goodbye.